Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Juniper Veil. Today I'm going to be reading on Hakeem Jeffries, probably in a new series that I'll call What's the Matter with You? Because there's always something going on with Hakeem Jeffries that people are annoyed with. I'll be doing a Celtic Cross. I want to get a general idea of why is he making specific decisions that he's making. Right now, what has caught everyone's attention is that he's not for Medicare for all, even though I saw a poll, a CBS News poll said about 90% of Democrats are for Medicare for all, and he is not. He does not seem to be for democratic socialists. He's more conservative than that, apparently. But I don't think it's really going to do him any good. I think right now the last thing the Democratic Party needs is to be split in some way. And it seems like the more generational Democrats, or some of them at least, are not willing to go along with the ideas of the younger democratic socialists, and I think that's a bad. That's not going to be good. I think that they need to understand that a large portion of the country, by polls I've seen, this is what people want, right? So the last thing the Democratic Party needs right now is to somehow cause strife within their party. And if you follow this sort of thing, you know that a lot of this could have to do with who gets funded from where, who feels, who do some Democratic politicians feel that they are loyal to, who do they feel like they're not loyal to. So it's very complicated, and frustratingly, that should not be this complicated, but it is. So we're going to do a Celtic Cross on Hakeem Jeffries. Why is he making decisions that he is making? This is for entertainment purposes only. I don't know him personally. I'm just reading tarot cards, but we'll see what we get. All right, so I do have reversals in this deck. That is something that, again, I'm working on. I also have this fancy purple light. I could change the color. I put a light up here so that you can see the cards better when I hold them up. We'll see if the purple light is good or not. I can always change the color. All right, so first card is the present situation. We have the World card. And then the problem is Page of Cups. Let's see. The past, we have the Queen of Wands reversed. The future, we have the Sun. For, let's see, the conscious, we have the Queen of Pentacles. The unconscious, we have the Three of Swords reversed. For the influence on Hakeem Jeffries, we have the Star reversed. That's his influence. The external influence on him is the Ace of Swords. Hopes and fears, Five of Wands. And the outcome is the Eight of Swords. All right, so let's read through this. Oh, Wheel of Fortune is the underlying energy. So Wheel of Fortune could be good luck, bad luck. Usually if it's upright, it's kind of a good luck thing. But it also shows a constant changing, right? A constant cycle. I wonder if it has to do with him possibly changing his mind, changing how he's doing things. So we'll see. So the World card is the present situation. So this is what's happening now. It can also be the current state of mind for Hakeem Jeffries. Where is he at this current moment in time? The world card is when you feel like you're at the end of a cycle and you've achieved what you wanted. It's the last card of the major arcana. It's a big achievement. So right now, does he feel like he's kind of at the end of his tenure as minority House Speaker? Possibly. Has he done what he is? Say, for example, this announcement that he made where he's not into Medicare for all. Is that something that he is true to him, or is it true to his financial backers or whoever backs him? We'll see. But it's a big deal because it's the world card. You know, it caught people's attention, especially fellow Democrats. So the problem is the Page of Cups. The Page of Cups is a creative card. It's naive, a bit immature. It is somebody who wants to move ahead, right? The page wants to become a knight. The Page of Cups is an interesting card because it's more of a creative card because we have this guy with the fish just coming out of the cup, right? So there's this whimsy to it. Cups are about intuition. They are about social relationships. I feel like, in a way, the problem here is that he's being naive, I think. I don't feel, even though he is House Minority Speaker, I don't feel like when it comes to a court, he's not a king, he's not a queen, he's not a knight, he's just a page. So it's like he doesn't have the confidence or the authority that he needs to have. And I think that's why he possibly could be making the decisions that he's making. He may feel like he could be making decisions that he actually doesn't want to make, that could have to do with who's ever backing him. And he doesn't feel like he has the authority to change things. In a way, he seems to be standing in the background and not being a voice for the Democratic Party, which is very frustrating. The past is the Queen of Wands reversed. So these are about past events that shaped the current situation. Sometimes when I see the Queen of Wands, I think of Kamala. That reversal could be her loss. He doesn't, because she lost, since that made him minority, right, leader, not majority, because there's no majority in the House for the Democrats. So she could have had majority. They could still have had minority though in the House, even if she was president. But also, queens are, they're not intimidated, right? They are very smart. They do things in the background, but he has this reversed. So that says to me, there's a chance to run into roadblocks when it comes to work. He should ignore these roadblocks and carry on. So I feel like he had a lot of roadblocks that just got him to the point where he couldn't actually get to where he wanted. I think a lot of this had to do with the previous election, not being minority speaker instead of majority speaker, I think is a big thing for him. There's also this lack of professional zeal, right? He could be exhausted. He could be unwilling to take on new responsibilities. He could have a negativity towards his work right now or right in the past. And that is like affecting his decisions now. So I think he's not happy with the work that he's done so far. So that does still make me wonder if a lot of the decisions he's making are decisions that he wants to make. That's why I still kind of question that. For the future, this is the future that could happen if nothing really changes. Could be like a short term happening. There's the sun card, and that's a very good card to have, right? The sun is kind of like a very good luck card. It's a very yes card. I wonder in this case, it does talk about optimism, happiness, enthusiasm. I wonder if in this case, though, the feeling I get is that there's going to be light shed on how on who supports him, on who backs him, on who could possibly manipulate the choices he makes, or if he's making these choices himself. There's this idea of this shining of why. So, but it's hard to say with this one because as much as the sun is a enthusiastic card, optimistic, I feel like this sun is more shedding light on him and the inner workings. So I think that's something that he would need to be careful of. It could show things that people are not happy with. Next is the unconscious. Or no, is it the conscious? It's the conscious. So the conscious, what he's focused on, where his mind is, his goals. Queen of Pentacles, he's focused on money. He's not saying it outright. It's more of something in the background. He's focused on where he gets his money. And that would again say to me that he is thinking about what is it that his backers want him to say. So I'm getting more and more cards showing me that he's focusing on his funding and what his funding wants him to say, as opposed to maybe what he wants to say. So the unconscious is the Three of Swords. Three of Swords is heartbreak, but he has this reversed. I'm not sure what the Three of Swords reversed is. I have to check into that. So recently suffered a loss, a breakup, a period of grief. He could still be recovering from this. His emotions have not completely subsided. That makes it difficult for him to move on. For work, this could be stress, right? Stressful conflicts, but they are resolving. Outlook and general happiness are improving. So I think unconsciously, the stress from work is just getting to him as well. It may be clearing for him. And so I feel like that's a stress also from when it comes to money, when it comes to funding, when it comes to who's backing him. He's having stress from that. I still don't have a general idea of where he really stands on things. I mean, he could say, I don't believe in Medicare for all, and he really believes it, right? Or it could be both, funding, where his funding sources are coming from, and his actual beliefs. So the influence. So card number 7, this can be interpreted a bit broadly, or in general, it relates to how he sees himself and how that perception can influence how the situation plays out. So the star card reversed, that's interesting, because the star card is about hope, right? When I see it reversed, I'm thinking of almost like a bad luck in a way. Yeah, it's like a conspiring against him. Any challenges that he had seen in the past, he may have been excited about, but now he just doesn't feel like he can overcome. There's a loss of faith Then there's negativity in his work. He's not creative. He's not enthusiastic. And I think that's the same thing with the Queen of Wands, right? The Queen of Wands showed that he was just becoming disinterested. And maybe that's why he has the World card as his first card. He's like kind of done. He's achieved being Speaker of the minority group in the House. And he's kind of like, I'm kind of done with this. Maybe it's the pressure from the money, right? Pressure from the Queen of Pentacles, pressure from disagreements at work. So the external influence, this is the world around him, how it affects the situation, social and emotional environment that he's operating in. And this is the Ace of Swords. So what's very interesting about the Ace of Swords says to me that there's a new beginning happening. And I believe this has to do with the democratic socialists, how they're becoming much more popular. They stand for things that the people want for the most part now. People aren't afraid to use the word socialist anymore. That usually was something that people avoided because people would say it's communism, even though it's not communism, especially democratic socialism is not communism. So I think that there's this influence on him of this new beginning. I'm thinking about the swords. The swords, how would that relate to the democratic socialists? I mean, I think it's just meaning a fight, in all honesty. It's there's like a breakthrough, right? Let's see. Sharp blade, representation of the power of intellect, to get through deception and find truth. I mean, it makes sense to me that this would be democratic socialists coming through, the ideas becoming more popular. It's a new beginning. I think he may also want a new beginning when it comes to himself personally for his career. But I think the influence here on him is this outside influence of saying, hey, we don't agree with you anymore on being a moderate Democrat. I think the Democrats are moving away from moderation. So the hopes and fears is the Five of Wands. So this is interesting, right? Because your hopes and fears is like what you want and also at the same time what you don't want. So the Five of Wands is like a battle, right? We have 4 guys here, 4 people. They're battling it out with the wands. It almost looks like with this, I don't know if it's like an apple on top, but it almost looks like what's the word I'm looking for? I've forgotten now. With the candy on the inside, and everybody wants the candy. So he almost wants to have that battle. When I say battle, it could just mean like discussion, right? There's always discussions going on with politics. There's always this, well, if we can't get this, maybe we can get this, right? He hopes to have this battle, maybe within the Democratic Party with the socialists, maybe with the Republicans, but he also fears it. He's scared of the battle. I don't think, he's into the idea of having a battle. His heart isn't really in it. I don't think. So he knows that that's what he has to do because he's speaker, but he also fears it, right? And because then we have the outcome of the Eight of Swords, and that outcome is tied hands. He feels like he can't move on. He feels like he can't do anything. Usually with the Eight of Swords, you still can move. Like she's not connected to the swords. Sometimes it's more of an idea that you have that you can't do anything. It's kind of all in your head. I feel like his head is not in the right place. He's lost interest in being minority House Speaker. He seems to have lost interest in fighting for what he believes in, to me. I feel like he feels tied up because of money. He the Ace of Swords, new beginnings for other beliefs that he may not agree with, or the people that fund him don't agree with. So more and more to me, these cards are saying that he's saying things that he may not agree with personally because he doesn't feel like he has a choice. So that's why I think he's making the decisions that he's making and also being pretty quiet, right? Why haven't why hasn't the 25th Amendment been pushed? Like there's more than enough evidence for it. I'm sure there's many reasons. But, if he's supposed to help being this minority speaker, it's uh, there's no feeling of confidence. There's no feeling of feeling like they're like the Democrats have our back in Congress, right? It's like, why isn't anybody doing anything? And it's right there, even with the speaker. It's not doing anything. But why? Money, probably. Um, Disagreements, most likely. Maybe a worry of something coming out that he does not want out. A feeling of just being done. I achieved what I wanted. I want to go now. Right? Especially if he's making decisions that he doesn't like. If he doesn't agree with his own decisions, I could imagine he would be like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. Right? So I think that makes a lot of sense. Let me know what you think. This whole underlying energy of the Wheel of Fortune, it's like, anything could happen, right? Anything could happen. Uh, so I also want to look, I'm going to use the Endless Tarot because I want to ask what's going to happen after midterms for Hakeem Jeffries. So I'm thinking about midterms are in November. We should have hopefully the results. Won't take so long to come through, hopefully. So that time between November and January when people get sworn in for the most part. I don't know if everybody gets sworn in. They have to wait until January. I'm not 100% sure. Don't know if that has to do with what state you're in or if it's just an overall, yeah, people have to wait until January because that's when term ends. I'm not sure. Let me know. Let me know if it's different for your state. And I'll also look that up after this. So that time period, say between midterms and beginning of February, what's that look like for Hakeem Jeffries? These I don't do reversals because I like the panorama view. I might do like 6 cards and then maybe more because it's a pretty extended period of time that I'm asking about. Right now it's August 17th, 7:40 p.m. So we're still a little ways away from it. So of course it may change. But right now, what does after the midterms between November and February look like for Hakeem Jeffries? 2026, 2027. All right. We have the Two of Swords, difficult decisions. We have the King of Pentacles, possibly Taterhead. We have the Two of Cups, balancing people, emotions. The High Priestess, study, perhaps also secrets. The Queen of Cups. Maybe a strong female comes in to replace him. Hmm? And then the Queen of Wands. Ooh, maybe that's another strong female duo there. I have 6. I might do more. Oh, I want 2 more. I want 2 more. 7 of Swords. Fighting. 10 of Cups. Happy families. So when you do the panorama with these cards, you don't have to go in an exact order. Like, it doesn't have to be how you would normally read a book, at least in the Western Hemisphere, in the English language, right? Other languages you read the other way. So it doesn't have to be read like that. We're also looking at similarities between the cards. Like, is there a lot of water? How does the King of Pentacles, how does that change being between the Two of Swords and the Two of Cups? You know, different things like that. You can also move them around if you'd like. So I usually just leave them, but I could move around if I want to. So the Two of Swords, like I said, says to me, difficult situations. This, you see this statue of a person here, they're blindfolded, right? And you see all these swords here. There's swords in the background. There's somebody going towards the swords. I think the purple light is kind of hard to read. I could change it. I'm going to change the color, even though it looks really nice. That's more like a green, or I could just go white. Okay. So this Two of Swords talks about difficult decisions. This person in the card is walking away from us. They're walking towards this difficult decision, this balancing act, which we also have the Two of Cups, right? We have the 2 birds and 2 bird baths. There's water in the background. The birds are also not facing us. These birds, they're getting some water. They're at the water cooler, talking things over, right? Trying to find a balance of something. It's kind of like trying to find a balance of relationships, but also having to make certain decisions. And maybe feeling like there's just, these are 2 decisions, neither one of them you particularly care for. And between those 2 is the King of Pentacles, which in a lot of ways, in a lot of cards, a lot of readings could be Taterhead, right? This is after the midterms. To me, this would say a male individual, lots of money, doesn't necessarily have to be Taterhead in this reading, could be financial backing for Hakeem Jeffries, right? The people that back him financially are saying, you need to do this, you need to do A or B, you choose whichever one, but it better be A or B. He's like, I don't like either one of those. And he's having some discussions about it. Maybe whether I don't think these discussions are necessarily with the financial backing, because we have the High Priestess. I think these discussions are more with this High Priestess. They're secretive discussions. The High Priestess is somebody who is learning. She's collecting information. She has the books. She's looking things over. It doesn't have to be a woman, but there could be a female or somebody else that he's really talking things over with. Sometimes some readers say the High Priestess is like the most Jewish card of the deck. I don't usually do things like that, but it kind of made me think of Chuck Schumer in a way. Like, they would talk things over, right? Like they would discuss things. I mean, it would make sense to me, but it doesn't have. That's why I said it doesn't have to be a woman. Also, maybe not have anything to do with Chuck Schumer. But there's somebody that he's discussing things with, but kind of makes sense to me. It would be Chuck Schumer because they are kind of like those leaders of the Democratic Party, and they're more moderate, right? So they would be discussing things together. And then we have the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Wands. So I find that to be very interesting because there's water in both of these cards. So there's a connection here between the High Priestess and the Queen of Cups. And we have the Queen of Wands. And sometimes I think to myself, Queen of Wands, AOC. Both of these are strong women, probably, most likely. Don't necessarily have to be women, but they are the queens, like I said, are doing things in the background. They're not intimidated. They're very smart. This high priestess person is also discussing things with the Queen of Cups. And then he's discussing things with Hakeem Jeffries. Right? There's discussion, blah, 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 blah. Queen of Wands is interesting to me because I think the Queen of Wands is like AOC. As soon as I saw this queen, I thought AOC, but then I saw the Queen of Wands and I thought AOC. I think she could replace him, especially if we have a strong victory for the Democratic Socialists in the primaries. I think she's new blood coming in, and I think that the Queen of Cups is also assisting with that, talking to the High Priestess. The High Priestess is talking to Hakeem Jeffries and saying, this is what is happening. Does the High Priestess agree with the Queen of Cups? Or is the High Priestess telling Hakeem Jeffries, this is what's going on, you better watch out, because we have the Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords is like it's to me, it's a battle because of these two figures, right? They are getting ready to spar, right? This one has a sword. This one has a sword. They're ready, right? They are on point. They have the stance. They're getting ready for a battle. So there's some type of, I don't know if I want to say argument or disagreement. I feel like it's like it's between those two things. It's more than a disagreement. It's less than an argument. But I feel like it has to do with the Queen of Wands and Hakeem Jeffries. There could be also others within the Democratic Party that are saying to him, you need to go. You're not reflecting what we want. And the Democrat, the people, the voters don't feel supported. And because of that battle here, it's not a huge battle. I don't think it's a battle that takes place outwardly. Everybody's in the woods here, but they seem pretty much like they're doing this in the dark of night in the woods. It's more of a backstage battle, but it results in a happy families. And I feel like for Hakeem, this could be him just kind of like moving on, leaving this behind, because I think that he wants to. I don't think he wants to be there anymore. And this could also represent the Democratic Party or the Democratic voters just being happy, coming together more, which is good. You have the rainbow. It's just because they're kind of facing this way, which makes me think Hakeem leaving, moving on to something he'd rather do. The Queen of Wands could be coming to replace him, which I think would be very good. So that's what I think is going to happen during that, like after midterms, that time between November, February. I think that's what's going to go on with Hakeem Jeffries. A lot of this is probably going to be in the background. We're not going to see a lot of this, but I think we're going to see the results. And I think people are going to be happy with the results. Yeah. So let me know what you all think. I think this does make a lot of sense. If you feel like there's something a little bit different or something that I missed, please let me know. And yeah, so thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you for being subscribers. Thank you for commenting. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And again, let me know if you want me to read on anything specific. I like to read on political events, current events. I like to read on If there's a certain like sports or championship going on that you want me to read on, I'll do that as well. I feel like I get a lot of good understanding of how the teams play. It's hard to figure out who wins, but getting an overall like, idea of how teams are playing on a specific game is very interesting. I also look at missing persons, other true crime stuff, and I do full moons, new moons readings, eclipse readings. So anything you want me to read on, please let me know. If you want me to read on a celebrity, I'll do that as well. And yeah, so stay safe out there, everybody. Um, Remember to vote. Remember to check to make sure you are still registered to vote. Make sure you know how to vote. Coming up, make sure you know everything. Everything that is for the coming November. And have a great day, everybody. Bye.